allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, nation under God. All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Volrath?
Here.
Mr. Blanton?
Here.
Mr. Robinson?
Here. All right, straight into the administrator's report, Mr. Brett.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll start with Jordan Road. We had a little talk meeting with Abercrombie on the engineering for that. In your packet, it says today, so now you know I started putting this together on Tuesday. That was Tuesday we did that. They're going to have us ready to walk the entire thing, walk or drive, depending on how far we are between things. Probably by January 6th with Eric from Cleves, so we can just walk through and get everything. In between that time, they're going to have a general layout done. I'm going to go to the fire department for hydrant placement and everything you're seeing going good with that project. The parking lot at West Park. I mentioned to a couple of you that we had run into some issues with the rain. And by the way, and I told Mr. Blanton that they'd already put gravel down, and they had not. The gravel was just in the front. It was raining so hard today I was there. It looked like the gravel was all the way out, but it was just in the front where they were covering up the drainage pipe. So, but they are going to go ahead and put the gravel in and try to get the 4-inch or the 4-to-4 base coat down before winter. So if we get that in, we'll be good for the winter. Unfortunately, it won't be done until spring, but as soon as the blacktop plant's open, they'll be able to finish that. Township finances, the finance committee met again yesterday. We have one other meeting scheduled between now and our next meeting. So the assessor will have the final appropriation for your approval there. I think she has a draft in your mailbox right now.
We're meeting on the 17th, the day before the meeting, so if there's any changes, I'll make sure you get updated copies.
Okay, and then that's gonna be an our agenda for our next meeting.
Yes.
For approval, yes. Indian Grave road repairs, the full depth repair was a smaller area and it got finished. How blacktopping, however, did not get to the large area where they're going to be milling because of the weather. So they're scheduled for Monday. Next week is supposed to be much closer to normal weather than what we had this week. So, and they didn't want to take a chance to try and put that thin top coat down in weather like this. So, I thought that was a good idea as well. Hold off on that, so did Wayne. Just because I don't think this is something you need to vote on, but I wanted to make you aware of it. The Park District is putting new signs up at all of their locations. And they have asked for a variance for the Park over Shawnee Lookout. The zoning there allows for signs up to 8 foot tall. They're requesting put a 10-foot tall sign in. Unless you guys have objections, I'll just send the county planning department a note telling them that we have no objections to that.
You know, from Jim.
And it's gonna be the same one they put everywhere, so I've seen the design. They actually look really nice.
See him right into the ground, 2 feet.
Yeah.
Here you go.
So we have a request from the village of Clays that I wanted to run past all of you, although I think I know the answer. They had requested that we allow the sheriff to park 2 of their patrol cars at the senior center permanently. When Justin asked me, I told him that we're really already short on parking, and he said he understood, but he wanted to make the request anyway. My recommendation is that we just go with that. We don't have the room there. We really can't let them have 2 spaces permanently.
Discussion.
What about when the library is back there?
Well, that's a year from now.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
No. I have comments. Yeah, I think, we are jammed up on space there. That's a whole idea.
Yeah, well,
It's the same thing I agree with too. We weren't short on protein and we're already on a hill where, and it's already mostly already not everyone's there, but to give up our 2 spots. I don't think it's a good idea. And the other thing is, how many cars do they need? I'm just saying, I go by and look, and there's 15 cars there. That's my take on it. So I'm not against it. I mean, if it seems to me that they could create 2 spots, so that's what it seems like.
it seems to me like they have a lot. When they were talking about needing a place, they were talking about 8 or 9 spaces. They've got more than that behind the building and things already, so.
They moved some to Addison.
No, so that should alleviate it.
Yeah, but he asked, and I found it.
So maybe it's something we can revisit once they can see how many cars they get in Addison, how many they get in Cleves, then we can move forward, we can revisit it and look at it.
Yeah, there may be something will change later on, in a year with the library. We'll see how they progress.
Right.
This is kind of, you don't have Jack on this tonight, but our Clint has been at the repair shop for months now. And we got a best case and a worst case estimate on repairs. The best case was they could repair it for $22,963. Worst case is $78,688. It's kind of, Tim knew about this, but I'm going to let everybody know. They found this during the routine maintenance check, and I believe the chief just implemented doing routine maintenance checks on all the equipment, and that's how they found this. Is that
So there hasn't been an annual preventive maintenance check since 2020. So I've been suing all the trucks through. They found it during that. It's an NFPA, National Fire Protection. It's a very rigid thing. They found it during that.
That was on the ladder unit itself and the repair?
Yeah.
so? I just wanted to make you aware of that. If you'd like to approve up to the upper amount tonight, you can. If you want to wait until we see what the actual bill is to approve it, that's fine as well.
Any discussion?
Well, first of all, thank you for implementing the annual checkup, because I think that's great that it's concerning that we didn't do it before, but I'm glad we're doing it now. So thanks for doing that. I mean, I'm going to support it. We need it. But I'll defer to Trustee Borath whether you want to wait for the bill to come in and pay it then, and as long as it's within that range, or if you want to
My
push for
thought
something
is
today.
if we approve up to almost 79,000, then the bill comes back at 79,000.
Sure.
Right.
I think we need to see what the repair is. Good with the, come on, so I totally agree also. And my question to you, Chief, would be the not discrepancy, but the range amount is incredible. But I know I'm looking at this quote with labor at $45,000. So is it 45,000 divided by 2, or being the worst case scenario, then that's 78,000, and then or is it 45,000 either way in the 22,000?
No, so the $22,000 one is set as it is. It has its own labor costs on there. The other one is 78,000, whatever it is. That is its own thing. So they're 2 totally separate estimates there. My guesstimate is going to come in between those 2 numbers somewhere. But either way, what they have to do is the bolts that hold the ladder on top of that truck totally stripped out. And so it was just kind of when it's up there and you could lift it up and stuff, but the entire thing would shift. And there were some welds broken and some other stuff, so they hope that they can just re-drill those holes in there, put new bolts in and that kind of a thing, but just it's only 2,000, but they have to go in there and start doing other real in-depth mechanical stuff, that's where that higher the regular rate.
Can you give basically a green light or Jim to say, hey, you know, we're gonna approve it, we just
Yeah.
would like to, it's not gonna, if we don't approve a number, it's not gonna hold it up.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, because I agree with you. So, I think when concrete number instead of 2278.
That's why I said I wanted to make you aware that it's coming because I just didn't want all of a sudden for a $75,000 bill to show up and you and Mike to go. But so just wanted to make you aware that it's out there. I'm with the chief. I think hopefully they'll get in there. And
We'll have that before the next meeting.
Probably not until after the first of the year, I would imagine, with the holidays and stuff.
Okay.
So, and that's all that I have. Unless you have any questions for me.
Any questions for Mr. Brett?
Yeah, with the cold water.
I'm waiting on the surveyors to mark the line so we can dig the hole. So as soon as they mark it,
To the mark the water line?
then they got to mark the property line. I don't want to put it on the neighbor's property and move it. But it should be fairly, no, I'm not even gonna say that. I don't anticipate running into any troubles after that, since we can actually see the water line where they are to dig down the cabin. So should go smoothly after that.
So when they
I
say,
don't want to jinx the project,
Right.
when are they saying that we have a survey?
soon, because they need it for the park that they're working on, so it's on their list to get to. And Mark and I actually met at a parking lot the other day on the other end of West Park. And I told him, I said, I don't care if your guys don't do the whole thing, just come out and do that side work. You know, because I know they're busy, everybody's trying to get finished. As long as he can do that line and he understands why. He actually went and looked at the water line where it is going through that creek hanging out in the middle of the air. And he was glad that we took him out there because he also is gonna have to locate that water line where it starts, because we're gonna decide what we're gonna do with that, with the park expansion. So are we gonna leave it there and use it? Are we gonna move it? He's got some decisions we're gonna have to make with that. You know, quite honestly, it's there, unless it's in bad shape, I'd use it. And then we'll find that out when we put it back in. So,
Anybody else from the public like to address the board? All right, full business, Mr. Brett.
So at our last meeting, we talked about the software that the fire department and also the administration could use. The question was, what happens on down the line with this? If we get it, are they gonna double the price? So we have a 5-year contract. Basically, the first year contract, and then it goes up 5% a year for the next 4 years. So, not gonna be a big jump in price. So, I'd like to see us go ahead and lock that price in while they're operating.
So, 5 total. Do we have it, so do we need to approve each year? Do we just need to
They
approve
just need
the
to-
contract at a total of 44,352?
Yeah.
For 5 years?
Yeah.
All right, this is something you would approve, correct? And Chief,
Yes, absolutely.
you're recommending this, right?
And so basically, I would put all of our SOPs, all of our policies and procedures in there, and then all of our employees would have to go through each one of those and actually sign that they read it. So there's never a question of someone says, well, I don't know that that's, you know, I mean, it's just an accountability thing. And we can use it across the entire township.
But it does more than that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it keeps track of all kinds of other things too.
All the trainings and all the requirements and everything.
Any other discussion from the board?
So this is township line, not just,
Yeah, we'll be able to utilize it for other things.
isn't this something you used previously and comfortable with? And
All right, we have a motion. Council motion to move forward with the 5-year RBMS.
second,
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
We read it into record. It's that the total amount for the 5-year contract, $44,352.40.
Mr. Ballroom?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
yes,
So next on our list is something that we've been putting off for a while. So I think everybody here has been here long enough to know that in the past, the township has bought 3 life squads at a time from Ken Care, which is Ron. However, with the levy not passing, and the chief wanted to get into a situation where we weren't spending all that money at one time anyway. Right now, we have the option with Care to order 3 units at the price they actually gave us in April. March or April? March. So wouldn't have this year's price increase in it. They will hold that price for us because we've been buying from them for so long. And we can take delivery on a unit. If we order these now, we can get one probably in and ready to run by next November. So we would take delivery, 1 in 25, 1 in 26, 1 in 27, rather than taking delivery of all 3 at one time. And I think that makes better sense than buying all 3 at one time anyway.
Can we just pay as we get them? Or we're paying it all up front?
We can do either.
Are you putting the box on a new frame? Is that what you're doing?
No, they're new because we're switching from diesel to gas.
So we,
This would be cheap, if I. Brett and I talked a little bit about this kind of a 5-year replacement
Yeah.
point that.
Yeah, the goal is not to replace 3 at the same time ever again. It would be spread out over time, so we don't have that lump sum that issue.
and I've talked to Mr. Brett about this and, I mean, the chief, and I mean, I think that this is a good example of what we need to be doing better in the future, trying to forecast and say, hey, whether it's any of these major expenditures, it seems like the 3 years that I've been here, it seems like kind of reactive and, oh crap, this came up, we need to jump on it. So, I think to encourage all of our department heads and try to look at these kind of things, say, hey, what do we need in 2 years or 5 years?
Yeah. I mean, they have a plan they give us, a vehicle plan.
Yeah.
They've been doing that for,
It'll look a little different now, but
right, it's different, but they have for, the fire department has done a long time. The vehicles, they have a program, 3 years we need this and what equipment's.
How,
this one's 2012.
that's not the ones I'm talking about, the good stuff. The 2012 is the one, is that an active service?
It is, yeah.
Okay, so that would be the first one we would replace.
Yeah, that would be the first one. The other ones are 2019.
The other 2 are 2019,
The other 3,
the other 3 are 2019.
yeah, they're
I
5
knew
years.
it wasn't too long ago, so 5 years, 5 years old, or 6 years old. So is that what's our plan moving forward? I know you talked about, Tim, somebody told me about rotating them. Where we can keep the miles down instead of not rotating them I know that's in the plans, right?
Correct, yeah.
So in the future, we would be looking at longer life of the squad. For the
Instead of
township.
every 5 for medics, I was going to do like every 7. every 7 years, start replacing one.
That's what I wanted, that's what I wanted to know.
Keep in mind that 2019 unit will be the one that will start replacing those in 2026. So they'll be 7 years old
Right.
when we get.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah, sure.
We've got 4 ambulances, right?
Right.
3 firehouses, so one's a backup. Which firehouse, which area does the most runs, or is it all about the same? Putting miles on vehicles, what I'm getting.
68th and Mount Nebo definitely puts the most miles, since it's the furthest away from the hospital. But Station 70 is probably the busiest one.
This is 70.
Yes, up here.
And the only reason I brought that up is if we look at the miles, if you rotate the squads from house to house, it might balance the miles out.
Right.
That's just a thought.
That's the plan.
we're doing.
That's what,
Yeah.
That's the plan,
that's the plan. That is what we are doing now, or that's the plan in the
that's the
future.
plan moving forward.
With the new ones,
Yes.
I'm talking about the ones that are in service
Well,
now.
well, the 219, I would think we would implement it as soon as.
It's already been, we've already started that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you won't see the station number on the squads.
Right.
In the future. Because in the past, they've always put the station that we're gonna run out of. And, yeah, I agree with the chief. You know, we need to rotate them around. They don't need to know what station they came out of, because really, if you need the squad, you're not really concerned where it came from. You're just concerned that it's there with somebody qualified.
Right. Any other questions? All right, Mr. Board. We have a motion? Yeah, I'll make a motion to get on make a motion to get on the list for purchasing over the next 3 years.
Correct.
So
Oh, yeah, well, I
Are we-
didn't know if he was gonna read it.
I didn't think it was here. You gonna read them?
yeah, are we going?
So total is due for 3 years is $1,130,037. And if that's the case, then I will second it.
Let's, what's your,
Nothing,
nothing?
nothing.
Okay, so we got a motion and we have a second.
Okay, Mr. Volrick?
Yes.
Mr. Blanton?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes. Actually,
I need a clarification on the sheet of paper says 3 to 5 years for the squads.
Years 3 through 5.
Years 3 through 5,
They've got year 1, year 2.
then additional 5
That's
additional
the
3
cost
through
square
5. So you did 3 or I'm confused.
so you're looking at A and.
I'm looking at
we're voting on
B.
D.
I'm looking at A.
Right, and we just voted on B. Item B, the pen.
I'm sorry, yeah, it is
Okay.
B.
So item A was.
I got you.
Okay.
I was looking at the wrong one. Sorry.
Okay. All right, Ms. Ozer.
Did I read the wrong number? Without the discount? But anyway.
That would be the total.
Okay, all right, that's passed. All right, let's move forward. All right, Mr. Brett.
Next thing we have to discuss is the fire contracts with the villages. We've received some communications from the village of Please, also the village of North Bend. And based on that, I'm going to recommend that we move to an executive session and have a conference with our attorney on what some of the options are with that. So that would be my recommendation. Like, go do that, talk it over with the attorney, and see where we want to move to with those before making a decision.
All right, any other discussions before we make a motion for executive session? Nothing? All right. I'll make a motion that for executive session to consider, one is to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official for the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual, unless the employee Official licensee of regulated individual requests a public hearing by Division G1 of Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. Also going in executive session for 2 is to conference with Township's attorney concerning pending or imminent court action by Division G3 of Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. I'll make that a motion.
All right, Mr. Volrey?
Yes.
Mr. Blanton?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
You're entering into executive session. Are you going to conduct any other township business after that session?
Yeah, we're gonna come back on the record. We're gonna talk about the fire levy discussion, placing on the primary election. We're gonna do that, we're gonna do that in open meeting. We have to.
Any estimate when that might happen to some of you in, or?
We can, I don't think it's gonna be, I don't think we're gonna be in there that long. I don't think it's gonna be long.
At the next meeting we were here, you did the executive session, but no comment was made about we're gonna have other business.
That's the only other business we have on the
Because-
agenda.
In the past, usually, I'll say,
We should have addressed it.
there were executive sessions, when they announced that, they said there would be no further business after the session.
Right,
So you're all leave, you know, you heard it all.
right.
So now I gotta sit here and wait.
Well, why don't we do this then? And I fully agree with you. So why don't we table the new business? I know we're in a timeline with that, but we can address the fire levy discussion on the next meeting for 2 weeks. Can it still be okay?
No, I don't think we can.
Not time.
All right, then we can. So,
Is there
We'll
something
try
you
that.
wanted to discuss, sir, or?
Yeah, I just, I like to hear about the fire levy, but I don't like the idea of I'm being told, just sit here and cool my heels while you guys have an executive session.
can we withdraw the executive session? On the record?
So I, you need to talk.
We gotta talk. All right, we'll try to, I'm sorry, we should have discussed it beforehand, so.
Yeah, I think there's-
Next time we go to executive session, we're gonna be discussing it in executive session. But we will, but in the future, we'll take that recommendation, so we finish on the record, so when we come back, if there won't be any more
adjourn,
township
then we come
business
back.
discussed. So we have to leave open the availability of it.
Right.
We can't guarantee it 100%.
Yeah, I
But
understand
if it's not on the agenda, but this is on our agenda right now. So we have to, you're right, we'll have to leave that open.
The problem is, what we're going into executive session needs the attention today. So we need to talk with our attorney about it. And we need to make a decision. So we need to go into executive session and talk with our attorney. And then come back after we get his recommendation, then the board can decide what they want to do about it. And they have to come back and do that out here. They can't make that decision in an executive session.
Right.
So,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Go back from executive session. Can we get a motion to officially go back from executive session to the record? I'll make that motion to executive session, back from executive session.
I will second.
and Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Mr. Clayton,
Yes.
Mr. Buller.
Yes. Okay, so
4:37.
new business. We appreciate everyone waiting for this, so we'll go straight to it. So it's fire levy discussion on placing the levy on the primary election in May of 2025 and the bills to be requested. So any discussion from the board, or we'll go to the public first, or we want to discuss from the board? So we have Mr. Brett, we've got a recommendation from, and Mr. Borat from the Finance Committee and yourself and the fiscal officer and Mr. Borat, is that correct? Correct.
The recommendation from the finance committee was that, we asked in May that the voters approve a 4.5 mil new levy. Can't be over a renewal because the old one expired. So the recommendation was to request 4.5 mils at the May primary levy. So,
And tonight, all we're looking at is to set that amount and send it to the auditor for approval, correct?
yeah, well, for tonight, if you ask for that milling, then what we do is we send that to the county auditor, ask them to verify how much money that will generate.
That's what,
And when that comes back to you, you can decide if that's the millage you
that's
want,
what we
or
want
we
to
can
do.
adjust it.
Okay,
Then we're gonna make it continue.
Place.
There's gonna be continuing.
that's correct.
Yeah, well, they can decide that, they can decide that
Well,
on
that's later.
the number. So,
Okay, so, no discussion from me, but any discussion like Mr. Brett?
No, I appreciate the due diligence of trustee Borat, Mr. Brett, Mr. Oster in our finance committee. So I think it's good that we're, took a look at our operation and reevaluating everything.
Agreed. All right, we'll take questions from the public.
Like, well, no one.
No?
I think that's what it should have been to start with. Would have been more palatable to everybody. Instead of 6 something, 4.5, so I don't know.
So it's, so just so we're clear on it, what we had on there was 3.5, and this would be 1 mil increase overall, but overall together it's 4.5. That's correct, right?
It's correct.
How are you going to communicate that to the community?
First thing I think we have to do here is find out the millage from the auditor, and then as we vote on that, we'll get that final number and then we'll start to get that out to the community. Oh, way a lot better than we did on the last.
So I was going to say, all we got was a little postcard 2 days before the,
There were meetings that were held, there were community and public meetings that were held that were really attended. And I think we got to find a way to get the message out a little bit.
yeah.
Again, the trustees, elected officials and employees are very limited in what we can do. We can't do anything while we're working. The trustees can't do anything in their capacity as a trustee because of a new, well, two-year-old law in Ohio. So we have to depend on a political action committee, a group of local citizens to help us get the word out. And we had a group that did their best, and they got over 100 signs placed. They got the small card out, and they've been in touch with us. They said they're willing to do more, and if you're willing to help, they would love to have the help. Any help that you can get them.
Well, I think it's important that whoever this committee is, that people understand that the renewal expired, so there's no money coming in.
Correct.
That's very. I think
Well,
that's
there
very
is
important.
some money.
No money coming in.
Well,
This year.
from that 3.5, there's no money coming
Put it on
in.
in
I think
May.
that's important to communicate to them.
Even if this comes on in May, we won't like it anyway.
And I understand that, but all I'm saying is, hey, you guys need to go through this because it's lumped together.
Yeah.
That one went away. So there's, that went away altogether.
We're gonna do our best and get that out. So we did discuss that. So. All right, any more discussion from the public?
Can we put up the cost, what it costs to run the fire department on the township side?
Can we put it on our
The
side?
cost, yes.
I think we can.
I think we need to do that. We didn't do that last year. I think people need to know what it's costing to run the fire.
It's something, that's a good recommendation, Joe, and that's something we need to look at when we start to educate our residents.
As soon as possible.
And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to call you her. I don't know your last name, I'm
I've
sorry.
been called a lot of things.
But we need to be aware of that, and you're right, and educate our residents on that, so they can make the decision for themselves, and hopefully, it'll pass this time. All right, do you have a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion for the administrator to contact the county auditor for 4.5 mils for the clear of the evaluation.
I'm just saying,
Excuse me, real quick, so I got 4.5 mil continue, correct? 4.5 mil continue.
one second.
And Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Excuse me, Mr. Blanton?
Yes.
Mr. Muller?
Yes.
All right, so we also have, we've got a recommendation from our fiscal officer that had to leave. So since our, and he's free to jump in if I explain this incorrectly, so I'm gonna make a motion that we move 300,000 from our TIP fund to our general fund. And the move behind that is results in our fire levy getting voted down in November. So that's why we're making this move. And I'll make that a motion that we do that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
You're taking TIF money and putting it into the general fund for your fire department. Are you using that for payroll? You say no.
What, no, I'm not saying no, I'm saying that you,
Because TIF money can't be used for payroll.
correct. So Mr. Brett and Ms. Oser, our fiscal officer and our administrator, met with a consultant who specializes in TIF funding. And this is part of how our entire operation is trying to get more creative and looking and turning over every stone and looking to where we could whittle that 6.5 down to 4.5 and trying to get as bare bones as we can with our operation. This is one of the many creative approaches that we're taking as a board and as a township to try to make sure that it works. Obviously, you can't just say 6.5 and 4.5 and everything is going to be the same. So this is one of the steps that we're taking, trying to get as creative with our money management to make it work. So that is going to be for maintenance and
It's just repair.
repairs. So it is not for personnel.
No, first.
Okay, I just want to make,
Sure.
because I'm the big thing about TIF, your payroll, so. Okay, all right.
And that already shows you know more than about the TIP funds than most people. So that's a good
Been
question.
here 30 years, listening to it, so okay.
Sure.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Yeah, second.
And Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Blanton?
Yes.
And Mr. Muller?
Yes.
You want to cover filters or? Yeah. Okay. So also, the last motion I'm gonna make is a motion that we offer all three villages an extension on the current fire contract to include January, February, and March of 2025.
And I will second. This is to, obviously, there's a lot of ongoing discussions and negotiations with the villages, and this allows for an opportunity for us to continue those negotiations. It gives them just a little bit more time, but hopefully we can come to a resolution that the board is supportive of. So I support it and I second.
Give them enough time to talk.
Great, Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Blanton?
Yes.
And Mr. Muller?
I have a question. So, keep interrupting. We talk about the villages and their fire contract. Give them 3 more months on their current contract. Right. Let's say after 3 months, they come back and won't reach an agreement with you. What's the backup plan there? Because if we're trying to get money out of taxpayers to support the fire department, the villages can't pony up their fair share. Are they gonna be cut off? Is it gonna be pay as you go? How are we gonna address that? So we the taxpayers, I don't wanna support Cleves, Addison, North Bend.
We are 100% in agreement. We are 100% there. We just gotta We gotta get some more time to talk here. I think they need to understand kind of where we're at. I don't think that that's really clear at this point in time to them, but up to and including termination of services, if something that's on the table.
Yeah, by the ORC, and from my understanding, and from our attorney, that we're not required to provide fire and EMS service by the ORC. Like the sheriff is, by the ORC is required to provide calls of service in our township. So, but we haven't, well, we don't have a contract. We will have a soon new contract with the sheriffs. So that's the difference, where the sheriff has to provide service. We do not have to provide fire and EMS to the three villages, although we are hopeful that we can come to an agreement with all three villages and move forward on this. And that's why part of the reason is we're giving them that extension.
And they have other options too. They're not required to contract with Miami Township.
I appreciate that. I just want to make sure that you're looking out for our best interest.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
We're all
We like
three on
to
the
be a
same
big
page.
brother and offer everything to the villages. They have big hearts and support them. Financially, it's not a good move, so.
Correct.
I'm glad you guys are on top of it.
We got you. All right, any other questions from the public?
I got one.
Yes, sir, Mr. Morano.
Did we hire an employee for the maintenance, and if we did, what was the employee's name to fill the position?
We did.
We did it.
I never, you might have did it, but you didn't say his name.
Oh, Jerry
Jerry
Gillespie.
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 Gillespie, Jerry Gillespie. He had worked for us before in the maintenance department as a summer help. And he's very familiar with the township and the equipment, and he was employed, I forget where else he was employed, but he applied and we voted on the last. He was recommended, Wayne Miller, made him do very well recommended, was a good worker. And the board approved hiring him for this meeting.
That's all.
All right, anything else?
We're actually not finished.
Yeah.
But we wanted to be considerate of you guys.
Yeah, we don't want you waiting. So we came back from executive session, and now I'm gonna make another motion to go back to executive session to address the appointment, employment, dismissal. We're gonna read this all into the record. Discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual, unless the employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual requests a public hearing by the Division G1 in Section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. And I'll make that a motion. Second.
Hey, Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mr. Gore?
Yes. All right. Thank you.
And no other business. Right, afterwards?